ahead and start the recording right now.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming tonight. This has been a massive project in the uh, undertaking of creating 3 completely new courses for our humanities team. And Annie, basically, this is going to be pretty much your meeting because Annie is the director of curriculum, and she will be spearheading, along with all of us, um, the creation of the HU 140, 240, and 340 courses. So I think probably what would be best is to just go ahead. I had sent out everyone the course outlines for all 3 courses. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at those and kind of have a basic idea of where we're going with these. But Annie, let me go ahead and just let you go ahead and get started on maybe a basic overview and some discussion on the role of the subject matter expert for these 3 courses.
Sure. So one of the really great things, and I'm just going to pause for a second. So my role is really supporting the faculty in this. So my title is the Director of Instructional Support. So I'm partnering with the instructional design team in the design process of these courses as well as supporting the faculty. But I don't want to take credit for the instructional design or curriculum portion of that because that's definitely not necessarily my focus, but something I'll be working in partnership with the instructional designers. But basically what I wanted to kind of have this meeting today to talk about is just kind of the overview of what's going to be happening in the next quite a while. So we're not jumping into the creation of these courses right away. We've got some pre-work to do. We want to make everyone that's interested aware of some extra positions that are available to work on these courses, and just bring the committee back together since we haven't met since last year. And thank you to Christine for being willing to spearhead the leadership of the committee for the moment. So Christine, I'm just looking for the as I kill time here, I'm looking for the agenda that you had sent out just so that I can go along with that, and I have found it. So um, not that it necessarily mattered, but I just wanted to go over that. So we do plan to build all 3 courses at the same time, because when we're building these courses out, the committee, we'd like to meet every week so that we can continuously update the faculty that will be teaching the courses to get feedback and get approvals and just keep everyone up to date. Some of the meetings may be longer than others, even if it's a 10-minute check-in, that those that are available can check in and we can send that information out. I think it's good to just have the faculty feedback and faculty involvement in the process. So one of the reasons for having all 3 done at one time is that we don't have this committee meeting every week for a year, or meeting every week for a semester, for example, and then we would go back to meeting less often. But one of the changes that we will be offering with this new design process is the instructional design team is really going to take lead on the design of the course. But with that, we need subject matter experts to work in conjunction with the designers, with their focus being content. And Erica and Clarissa, I'm going to put you on the spot in just a minute to give a little bit of an overview of what you're doing with the subject matter experts. And just, again, high level, we'll get more detail as we go along, but just to give folks that might be interested in doing that a little bit of an idea of what the process looks like, noting that we're still planning some of this out because we are implementing some new processes, but I think they can speak to that relationship and plan as well, better than I can, because they're going to be really working with the SMEs one-on-one to design the courses. So one thing that is a little bit different than maybe was the case before is the subject matter experts' focus really is going to be content, and then partnering with the instructional designer to talk about assessments and design pieces, breaking the content into parts. For our adaptive learning platform that we'll be using, there's some nuances that Erica and Clarissa will be able to work with the SME on. So the time commitment for a SME is about 80 hours. So to keep that in mind, and it will happen in a way that it's not going to be a couple hours a week, and we'll have a timeline in place before we would contract a SME, but we're looking at 10 hours a week for the 7 or 8 weeks that we're really delved into the content. And again, the idea would be we would have 3 weeks of pretty heavy focus in designing our assessments, the assignments, the activity portions of the class, the engaging pieces, and have a good idea of that. And then we would have 4 to 5 in-depth weeks where we're taking the content that we have and organizing that into learning maps. And so the one thing I want to put out there very early on is that we are going to need quite a bit of a SME's time for a little bit of a period. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more for those that are interested in helping us, SME. But what I wanted to speak to is the committee's relationship and experience to this. And before we even identify SMEs and get to that piece, which will come, we as a committee really want to think about the courses. What content are we using? So we're no longer using the publisher textbooks. So one of the first things I like to bring to the faculty committees is to ask for them to think about some resources that we could use in this course that are open educational resources, or pieces of content maybe they've come across. Articles from our library, for example. So we'll be partnering with our librarians to pull database information from the library, videos from the library. But before we can even start designing, we want to have a good idea of what resources that we can use in the class. And we have some amazing faculty, and so that's something I wanted to start with this evening before we even get into the design process, which I'm not seeing happening till late February, early March at the soonest, would really be laying out the content ideas. And I'm going to send Christine some websites and some suggestions for open resources that I've used, and she'll send that along to just give you some ideas. But really, we have a lot of options out there, and we'd really like to ask the faculty to start that exploration process. The other thing that we can do as a committee before we even start the design is think about within the courses, what topics are we covering? So at a higher level, so in the diversity course, we've got the 3 course objectives. Well, what do we want to cover in that course to help students meet those objectives? Do we have some thoughts on maybe what kind of assessments we would like? And as a committee, we can start that framework and just have those conversations before we get started. And then really with the subject matter expert and the instructional designer, they'll hammer out the details and come back to the committee to share what we have, get feedback where feedback fits in. And that's sort of this committee process. So very, very heavily involved with asking for resources, asking for kind of the overarching ideas of what we would like these courses to look like. We want to make sure that our students have a consistent experience. So if we have these 3 humanities courses, they don't necessarily need to be the same, but we don't want the diversity course to be extremely different from the intro course, which is then very different from the contemporary pulp, the 3rd level course. We want there to be some consistency. We're using the same adaptive platform, but that's the other place that the committee comes in. So,
Annie, Christine, do you mean consistency in terms of like similar assignments?
Nope.
Okay.
So a student would take, the cultural diversity course the student is going to take, and it's not, I don't believe, a prerequisite of the other 2, maybe it is, but thinking about it as prerequisites, is one course building the students for the next course. And are there, basically thinking of it as a humanities curriculum instead of 3 individual courses. That's more of what I was getting at. So as we're thinking about this, what do we want our students to come away from at Herzing from our humanities courses? Does that make sense, Christine?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and I'm excited to hear that the assessments can be more committee driven. I think that's a really good idea. It'll take some of the load off of the SME. I mean, it's from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the goal is to be as committee driven as we can be, and then as a support to the SME. Is that am I hearing that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we've done in our English committee. is we really came in and said, we had the committee come up with the ideas for the assessments and drive that, but then what it comes down to is our course designer and the SME then talk about some more of the logistics. So some of the things may change. Though we have an idea of what we want our assessments to look like, then our instructional designers are going to say, well, maybe this is a better way to word that, or I could see that fitting better here. And so it's starting the conversation, but then we're also going to have kind of those other conversations that aren't necessarily happening in the committee between the SME and the instructional designer that will then bring back to the committee and let them know kind of what what the process is happening. So there's definitely a collaboration, and we want this to be our course. The goal is that the Herzing Humanities faculty have ownership of the course. They're proud to teach it. The assignments that they want to see are in it, and that it really is a university process. It isn't this separate conversation between the SME and the instructional designer coming back and saying, okay, faculty, here's what you have to teach. This is that conversation to say, what do we want to bring in to our courses and leverage the expertise of our faculty.
Awesome. That's really awesome.
So,
okay.
Well, I was just going to ask Clarissa or Erica to chime in. So they've kind of come into the process in the middle of the phasing for some of our English courses just because of timing, and they're really going to, as they are tonight here, going to drive this from day one, and we're going to partner, but they'll be working with the committee and the SME and really leading the design piece of it. So I wanted to ask if Clarissa or Erica wanted to speak to a little bit about what you vision your relationship working with the committee and the SME is on this process, and just give a little bit of insight based on the what we've talked about. And again, keeping in mind we're still in somewhat of a planning phase. So when it comes to timelines and deadlines and deliverable dates and all of that, we're not there just yet, and we'll share that as we get there. So keeping it kind of high level just to give an idea of the experience.
Hi, Annie and Christine. This is Erica. So I really see my role as a partner. I am basically here to support the SME and the committee in deciding what is going to be the best engaging experience for our students. So in working with the content, my role is to really think about what would be the best flow for students based on my experience, based on the experiences of the other instructional designers, based on student feedback, based on faculty feedback. What is going to be the best flow of materials for our students so that they're able to meet the course learning objectives. And really, we serve as a sounding board. We're able to provide support in terms of helping to select some engaging resources. We can give some ideas about activities that we've seen in the past that have worked. So we do a number of things. Our main goal is to sort of help get the juices flowing. And then once we actually get that content, try to put it in some sort of coherent fashion that will give our students the best learning experience.
And this is Clarissa. I would just like to echo Erica's words. We really are going to be partners with the SMEs to really be able to support you guys. I've been able to have the privilege to work alongside both Crystal and Tina for the development of EN 104. And those two ladies have done an excellent job. And I've just been there to, like Erica mentioned, to just partner with them, to coach along with them, to really be able to add my design skills within the course Blackboard shell itself, and even in the Realize It tool. So yeah, Erica, you said it perfectly. I just really wanted to echo what you had already covered. So thank you.
Annie, this is Christine. Will there be an opportunity to put those in this committee who are interested maybe into a sample course or something so they can kind of see how the Realize It tool is incorporated with Blackboard?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on building out a faculty training course right now with some student experience pieces built in. So I guess the question I would ask would be, we have the EN 104 course that we're building out. That might be a good place to have the faculty check out first, as it could inspire maybe how this course looks. Otherwise, we have professional development and psychology, but I envision the English course being more kind of similar to that. So do we have maybe a preference? Do we want to wait for that English course, which we're working to have a pilot available for the March 6th start, and have kind of this group invited to that trial once we create that? Otherwise, I have the professional development, the PD 121 course, which is a 1-credit course. Again, the experience is quite different. And or the psychology course that we have, so the PS 101. I'm thinking that it might be a good idea to wait to do that English course, but I'm open to suggestions. If your faculty would like to engage with the psychology content, for example, we could do that. Do you, Christine, just offhand have a thought? Do we want to send that out maybe and ask faculty to give some feedback?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm kind of wanting to jump right in there. So I would love to have an opportunity to look at the PS 101.
Okay.
But I think that'll be a good action item to get some feedback on that.
And I don't recall if we had English as a prerequisite or not. But that's the other thought I had was, I believe in one of the humanities courses, that was the EN 104 course was a prerequisite, and maybe I'm wrong, but that would also be
I'm seeing on all three, Annie,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it on all three that the 106 and 104 are prerequisites
Okay.
on the course outline.
And 106 and 104 are the two courses that we're actually building out right now, though 106 will be 111. So my actual recommendation would be, when we do the subject matter experts on this, that having them check out those two courses probably would benefit the SME, because they're prerequisites to these courses, and I think that would make sense to take a look at those, the prerequisite courses, and make sure that we're supporting student learning through them.
And Annie, someone will have to create the test outs too, right? I mean, are we going to have test outs available right away?
So one of the hopes would be to actually use Realize It, because Realize It measures mastery. So if we can enroll a student in the platform and have them show us that they understand the topics, we can do that. I haven't gotten to that point of test outs yet, but that's a really good question, and I can follow up with that. And so, but that wasn't part of the course design at this point, though that makes sense, that that's something we need to think about. So. Great question. Any other questions?
Annie, this is Christine. What about the mechanics of actually creating and Realize It? Will that be more of the instructional designer's role, or will the SMEs need to, I don't know, take some training? Or
Great question. No, so the SMEs won't actually learn to work in Realize It, nor will they directly be working in Realize It, which is the adaptive learning platform. The really nice thing about Realize It is we can actually design in Word documents, and the system allows us to ingest the designed documents out of Word documents into Realize It. And so you will be working with the SME only with Word documents, though we'll do some training before you start about some of the options in Realize It, what's available, so as you're designing you have kind of a concept of what you can be doing and what the end product would look like. So there'll be some of that at the beginning, but no, your role really will be compiling content in Word documents in a fashion that we're addressing the action items in the course, basically, so that the students are able to work through the discussion questions, complete the assignments, work through those key assessments, and so that's really your focus, really, is compiling that content into the document.
Okay, wow.
Annie, it's Heidi. I have a question, and maybe other people have it. You know, these types of courses, the humanities courses lend itself to a lot of subjective answers, and it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, that Realize It is more of an objective platform, like it can help students figure out math problems or psychology answers, but how does it really get at an understanding of cultural diversity or those kinds of things? Because it's so subjective. There's so many different ways, places you can come at it from.
So that's a really good question. So the way to think about it is Realize It is one component of the course. It is not the entire course. And so I'm going to use composition, for example. If you think about a composition course, we need students to write. I mean, that is how students learn. And so the Realize It platform helps the students understand structure and APA formatting and suggestions on writing a thesis, but then they have to apply that learning through a writing assignment or through a reflection essay, pieces like that, which are done outside of Realize It. So it's just a part of the curriculum or of the course. It is not all of it. So in a humanities course, for example, maybe we have the student read an article, or we're looking at a couple of different articles, and we're just asking questions regarding understanding the article at a different level. But then in the discussion question for that week, we now ask them to compare and contrast the diversity, whatever, in the articles. Or we're applying pieces differently, and I apologize, humanities is definitely not my area of expertise, but you want to create both. So when they're reading, do they understand the reading? Can they walk away and kind of answer those mastery questions on the reading? But then bigger picture, can they take all of the work that they've read for the week and actually apply that to something or analyze it in a way? And so you want to think about it that way as well, that we're going to be using supporting exercises, assignments in Blackboard along with Realize It. Does that help answer your question, Heidi? Okay.
Yes.
Melissa has a great question too. Can student presentations, PowerPoints, or some other platform be incorporated into the course? Sounds like that answers yes, Annie?
Yeah. So at this point in time, we're going to have that done in Blackboard itself. So if we want the students to create a PowerPoint presentation, a project, and have them submit that, that would be done as an assignment in Blackboard, just as we would now. I'm hoping at some point in the future to do that and Realize It, but they just don't have the capabilities, at least that I'm aware of just yet, for that. So really thinking about the way that I think about Realize It kind of right now is the idea that it is the interactive text for the course. It's the interactive readings. And so not only the student reads a little bit about it and then they are asked questions to confirm that they understood what they read and potentially apply what they read to, again, a question set. And then outside of that in the classroom, then we have them engage with assignments that then take all of that and put it together. There's a lot more we can do. It is not just a textbook, so I don't want us to think of it that way. But as we're visioning this kind of from a perspective if you've not seen it before, that's one way to think about that. So the other great thing, Melissa, actually I want to bring up what you had is, now this will also be used in ground settings as well as online. So that idea of a PowerPoint, maybe for online we're having them create a PowerPoint presentation with notes and having them present that as a project, but in a ground classroom we're asking the students to present their PowerPoint. That's another idea. So the way to think about this design, and we do have to put both hats on, is we're creating a uniform curriculum that we can use in both modalities. So making sure that our assignments aren't just online specific, and if we need to tailor that so that we can make sure that it works in both modalities, just something to think about. Because there are a lot of great things that we can leverage online that ground faculty maybe haven't done, and vice versa. So really working together to come up with a coherent curriculum that can be used in both of our classroom settings, whether it's virtual or physical.
Does anyone else have any questions for Annie, Clarissa, or Erica while we've got them?
And that's the other really big piece of this committee that I'm hoping to leverage, is that we do teach in multiple modalities and we want everyone to be heard. And one of the great things that's happened in the composition course is a ground faculty person, did some of the design pieces, but then some of our online faculty said, oh wait, that doesn't work very well for the online environment, the structure doesn't fit. Can we make these suggestions? So then the two of them worked together and came up with a great solution that we could leverage in both places, because the ground faculty wasn't thinking about it from an online perspective. And so that's another piece that we want to think about as faculty in this committee. It's a Herzing Humanities course. It's not an online course. It's not a ground course. We're all using it. So how can we make it work for us?
Okay, well, what do you think, everyone, in terms of when should we meet again? When should we, Annie, you said the timeline was late February, early March?
Yeah, so what I would say is maybe it would be good again to just ask the faculty, and again, it's not going to be an hour-long session, but just to connect for every couple of weeks while we're discussing this. And but what I would ask is over the next 2 weeks, review the the course outlines and start doing some potential looking. If there's a course that's more in your wheelhouse, for example, if you can help come up with some ideas for content. And Clarissa and Erica, we'll see if we can also find some ideas to share, but let's just think about the content for this, resources that we can use, whether it be articles or open source texts that are out there. For diversity, for example, maybe there's some really interesting reads that we can use. I'm also going to ask Dawn, the librarian, to take a look at the course outlines and kind of think about it, but just starting that conversation and looking for materials that we can use in the course. And as I mentioned, I do have a couple of kind of websites that I use that have a lot of open source materials, and Christine, I'll get that to you. But what I would say is in 2 or 3 weeks, let's meet again and see where we're at, see what the faculty have kind of come up with, and talk about maybe what we really want these courses to look like. So I don't know if faculty want to think about a course that they, their favorite course, and spend a little bit of time thinking about what they would like it to look like. But let's have kind of the next session be a committee-driven conversation on what we envision our courses to kind of be. We have the outline for them, but we need so much more to have good courses. How does that sound?
That sounds good. Melissa, I think it's fine if you want to send. I think it's fine if you want to send it to me, or if you want to save and share at the next meeting. Either way, whatever is good for you. I've got a big folder for this stuff, so I will be able to keep track of it all. This is really a really awesome undertaking because it's going to pull our courses from the 80s or 90s, into, cutting edge. So I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a lot of work, but I think we have a great team in place, and the subject matter experts, when we get to that part of it, we've just got some really solid, awesome people to choose from. So this is just a really amazing time for all of us, and I hope everyone continues to participate because each of us have a unique perspective on each of these 3 courses that your contributions are really needed. So Annie, I think if there's no more questions, I think we know where we're headed, and I think we can call it a meeting.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming, and like I said, I'm excited to partner with you as humanities faculty to, number one, learn more about the area of humanities, but 2, to work on our curriculum as a committee and build out some awesome courses to deliver to our students. So I'm also very excited to be working on this with you all. If you have any questions or ever need anything from me too, always feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thanks again, Christine, for stepping up and being willing to head the committee as we work through this. So have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thanks.